Okay, y'all ready to get started? Okay, so when we started our budget development, we received input from principals as well as district office level. We built the budget based upon federal, state, and local mandates, as well as our district initiatives. We also built this budget upon school and district level requests. We collaboratively reviewed allocations on the personnel side as well as supplies. And before I get started, I would like to recognize a couple people from the finance office, Tammy Ware and Ryan Wiggins. They worked relentlessly with me on this budget and these projections, and I appreciate their hard work and their continuous support. And thank you, y'all. And I would also like to recognize a couple people that I've been working with at Berkeley County Finance, which is Johnette Connolly and Wilson Baggett. They've been a huge support for me, especially as we've been working through all the different assessments as well as the local tax revenue. So I wanted to recognize them as well. Okay. So looking at our projected revenue increase for the year, on the local tax assessment, this is comprised of vehicles, boats, manufacturing, personal property. As I stated earlier, I've been working with Berkeley County Finance Office on this, and we all feel pretty good about this number, and we're looking at a projected increase of 12 million. Unfortunately, at this time, we are not looking at an increase in fee in lieu. Ms. Connolly and I met Friday, and as of that point, we're not looking at any type of increase, but I want to leave it on the table because obviously if we hear something between now and the end of June when we actually approve our final budget, I will let you know if we have an increase in that line item. On the state employer fringe benefits, we're receiving an additional $3.5 million. This is a state EFA funding, and this is going to help us with our 2% retirement increase. As you know, PEBA has been having a lot of issues with their pension plan, and one of the measures they're taking is increasing the employer side of retirement over the next few years. This first year, all districts, as well as other municipalities, are looking at a 2% increase on the retirement side. From now until year 2022, it's going to be a 1% increase on the employer side. As you know, the governor just signed that, so it's gone into law. So we'll need to keep our eye on that as we move forward. On the EFA side, as you know, this base student cost is now at $2,435 per student. And based upon our 135-day ADM count, we are expected to receive a $3.5 million increase on EFA. On the next line item, we are projecting about 750 students in enrollment. That's a very conservative number, but we feel comfortable with that number, and we are projecting an additional 1.8 million based on growth projections for the next school year. We're also expected to receive an additional $800,000 on our new property tax relief funding. This is trying to help us at the state level with what we lost due to the Act 388 law that was passed, and this number has increased as well. And then on the new teacher salary increase in fringe, we're looking at a $350,000 increase. For those of you who were here last year, this number is significantly lower this year. Last year it was around $800,000, but that's due in part to the teacher salary schedule does not include a cost of living adjustment at the state level. So that's why that number is so low. It only includes a step increase. So with all of that said, we're looking at a $22 million revenue increase moving into the new budget year. Any questions on that? Yes, sir, it is. They take a 45-day count and a 135-day count, and yes, that does include an increase as well. Yep. Both. When I left their office Friday, I was told that at this point, let's not project any new revenue. We're going to project the same number as last year. So
I think there's potential for some, but I think you have some years that you take it out of the park and they can get it out of the park and they can do that.
Exactly.
It hasn't come to bear yet. Even when we can ask for more information, but like I say, it can. Yeah, as well as it's going to spend, we have this world being. I do know that
Okay. And as I get new information on that particular line item, I will let you all know.
You asked about the new property tax relief funds. That's in the state budget to increase the amount of money because of the shortfall from Act 388.
Yes. And we did see an increase from last year as well, or the year before as well.
What is the normal, what's the actual shortfall per year because of the effect of Act 388? Do you have any questions?
I have literature on that, but I don't know that number right off the top of my head. But it's in the millions.
But they're trying to subsidize that, trying to help that.
But
we went to a workshop this year in Birmingham, and just from what I've heard, it's very possible that the shortfall would be less. It was the kind of numbers they were quoting for some of those types of things.
with a strategy, with a strategic goal, basically, and district initiatives. And so then we were able to basically pull all of that data in and start scrubbing through it. Our main focus was federal mandates, of course, and then our second focus was state, and then when we say local mandates, that talks about growth. So just to kind of give you an idea, these items are labeled in alphabetical order, but all of the items on this PowerPoint here are priority items. So with that being said, we've got teacher assistant requests. We've got administrative assistant. Now, when you think administrative assistant, that's not a secretarial position. That is an employee that's paid on a teacher's salary schedule plus additional days that works directly with the principals and assistant principals. We've got custodian requests, guidance counselors, office clerks, related arts teachers, and then, as you can tell, 20 teacher allocation requests. Although there's not a total on this page, there will be on the next slide, but this slide here is about $2.3 million. This also includes not only the salary, but the benefits as well.
This is above the teacher allocation that the district projected initially. These are additional FTEs that the principals requested that has been vetted through the cabinet and requested additionally.
Yes.
Based on projected enrollment.
And also 135 day count.
Yes.
So that's not request from the principals in addition to the projected enrollment.
Allocation for next year. So those two requests
Is there a breakdown for which schools are getting this?
Any other questions on this slide? Okay. So to continue, this slide covers the other school level personnel requests that are not directly related to mandates or growth. We have the request of an administrative assistant, and again, that's not a secretarial position. I don't want you to be misled. Computer lab assistant, nurses, related arts teacher, and additional special ed teachers. So when you look at the entire school level request based upon mandates and initiatives, you're looking at $2.3 million. And then when you look at the other school personnel, the other school level personnel requests, we're looking at an additional 1.1 for a total of 3.4 million in requests. And I'd also like to point out that we had 17 teachers reassigned to assist with the number of growth positions. So we've also looked at that as well.
So is that a school level nurse or that?
Yes, ma'am. That is a school level nurse.
That every school has a,
Yes, ma'am.
and some very large schools have.
Right.
Are there any schools that aren't directly related to it? It's very special.
With me, there are not enough schools right now currently qualified to do this. We do have some more than 2 schools, but they're special needs.
Well, I know there's sometimes a child that has that child. And there is a physical school level.
Right.
And a lot of it is not like a technical.
Yes.
17 teacher allocation reassigned. That means that some schools are reduced enrollment and others have increased, and therefore
There's some movement around.
you're just moving FTEs from
Yes.
lower demand to higher demand.
Yes, sir.
So,
We said at school level, federal, state, and local mandates are federal. We must pretty much do whatever. But same as right, simple state or local mandates, we got them all tied together. We got 2.3 million is consolidated all of those mandates between federal, state, and local
Yes. Oh, we're not finished yet. There's another.
Can I clarify? Can you go back one?
Sure. Whoop. Here we go.
So in the, I guess it is later on.
It is, yeah.
So okay, go ahead, please. One of the things that we have requested to do is we've got 28 more in the body for today, so we don't have a video for all or some FTEs are above and beyond PKD. So this is to build capacity with the system. These fall would be out there in school. We don't need them to be provided, but we can really get back. We'll see later on where we will have to.
Sorry.
No, that's great. No. Do we have any other questions on this slide? Okay. So these are the federal, state, and local mandates and district initiatives listed by department. We already talked about the step increase and the retirement increase and the health insurance increase, the opening of Philip Simmons High. We also worked on a 2% increase across the board for all of our services, supplies, and equipment. Within that, we worked out an allocation method for instructional supplies that's based on prior year 135-day count. We had a lot of inequities. When you looked at school by school listing of how they were budgeted for their instructional supplies, it was really all over the map. And one of the things that kept coming up, the last, 3 years I've been in this position, was can we move back to a formula? We had one in place, and then with all the budget cuts back in 2007, 2008, unfortunately, supplies is usually the first thing that gets cut, and that is what happened. And it's taken us a few years. We kept struggling to put more money in instructional supplies, but one of the things that was on everybody's mind this year that showed up in the principal request was I need more money in instructional supplies. So what we did is we put together a plan where a high school student would receive a certain amount, a middle school student, and an elementary school student. And of course, elementary would get a higher rate because it costs more to actually, purchase instructional supplies for those type of classrooms. So when it was all said and done, it was about a $500,000 increase to supplies, but we wanted to do it. We felt like we needed to do it to support our teachers. So when you look at this list up here that talks about district-wide, those things have already been embedded into the budget. So I just wanted you to know that it can be taken out if you don't support it. But I'm hoping that that y'all will agree that putting more classroom supplies is definitely going to help our teachers and our students tremendously.
I have a question about it.
Sure.
The supplies, some of the supplies, instructional supplies line, or there used to be line items, or is it all at the discretion of the principal?
It is at the discretion of the principal, but it is listed as instructional supplies with an elementary school function, instructional supplies with a middle school function. Yes, we do our principals have autonomy. They can move stuff around. If they need to use it in, let's say, technology supplies, they could definitely do that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, there used to be like art supplies and that you basically had.
Yes. This is the larger pool. Now, the special programs you were just talking about, a couple years ago, we rolled out an allocation based upon the number of art students in my school. So we were able to roll that out a couple years ago, and we've been able to sustain that and build that as well. This is basically at the school level. When you look at services for a school, most of that is like Kelly services, travel, that kind of thing. All right. So then on the special ed side, this is what we were just talking about with to stay in line with special ed compliance. We would like to add, or we need to add, an additional 7 allocations. We have the same issue with Title III. In order to stay in compliance, we need to add an additional 10 teachers for the ESOL program. They just corrected me. That works towards compliance as well. So those 2 line items are very important, which is why they're listed directly under the district-wide requests. And then we move to transportation. McKinney Vento transportation, that is to help our homeless students with transportation to and from school. And then under the finance side is our new ERP system. I know that is a very large number, and it's scary. But for most of you, I believe probably all of you know some of the current software issues we have been having. Just to name a few, we've got some audit trail issues, meaning someone does something in the system and we cannot tell who did it and why, which is causing problems. Our HR module and our payroll module are out of sync. They don't talk to one another. We can't work in our current software. We don't have multi-year accounting abilities, which has been a struggle for us with the capital projects.
HR, pretty much most of the things that
Budgeting.
we deal with, budgeting.
Capital projects, we'll actually be able to do capital projects, multi-year accounting. It's a great thing.
Is that 3.3 the O&M piece? There's no capital piece that we can use equipment bonds or something?
Well,
Okay, you got that, okay.
You'll notice it's got an asterisk.
Like,
We'll talk about that.
Spend some separate money on that.
And Jackie, how about the fact that over the years, the district has grown so much and we pretty much have outgrown our current systems?
We have. I mean, we slow it down to a point that we have to get out and restart servers. We push it to its full capacity on a daily basis.
And there are a lot of security issues with the software as well because it's so old.
So with this new system, will technology be maintaining this, or do we have to outsource that?
No, we'll maintain it. With this particular system, we would have servers in-house that we would support. You can still access it from the outside, which we can't now with our current system. But with this system, employees could go and make changes to their health insurance or make, or check their, their beneficiaries, all those kinds of things. And then vendors could also submit invoices online. There's a lot of features.
Will there also be support or technicians or technology people who are going to support? Do we need to add technology people to support? Servers
Miss
sound
Sally,
like
you are on it tonight.
servers sound like people, because when servers go down, everybody goes crazy. I've experienced a network issue today. You need people when that happens. I'm sorry.
No, that's
I
okay.
keep getting the cart before the horse.
So you'll notice there's an asterisk by that. We'll talk about what that asterisk means, okay? All right, and then on the HR, we're requesting an insurance technician, and I don't know if you know this, but the way that our payroll office and our HR office is structured is each group of school has their own payroll technician, HR technician, and what we would like to do is give them their own benefits technician, their own insurance technician. So a school can look on a list and they know of those three people who they need to call at all times. The benefits office is one of those offices that as we've grown in employees, they've been left behind. And it's been a struggle for them, and I've seen it firsthand. And so the insurance technician is definitely a position that's not only needed operationally, but our teachers, our support staff, everybody would benefit from another insurance technician. And then the last line on this slide, we need to implement the South Carolina teaching standards, so we're asking for an additional $10,000 in their supply account. Any questions on this slide before we move forward?
On the special education piece right there with the 7 FTE, is that an additional to the 12 that we just saw?
This is a mandatory item. The other 12, those are not mandatory. They're other requests. But yes, to answer your question, if you were to approve both,
So this
we have
is
19 special ed
That's the
teachers.
bare.
So that's the bare minimum, and the 12 would get us better
Yes.
services for our students, right?
Yes. Any other questions? Okay. All right, the second part of our federal, state, local mandates and initiatives. Piggybacking on what Ms. Sally just asked about with the information technology, this is another area that continues to grow. I mean, with the one-to-one initiatives, staff is needed to support and maintain equipment, infrastructure. So we're asking for instructional technologists, 2 network support, help desk technicians.
This would be for our new ERP.
It would assist with that, but we have other issues that define why we need to support this. We're also looking at a budget increase for equipment as well as infrastructure to continue with the one-to-one initiatives and all the different things that technology is doing. Replacement costs on equipment refresh, on our servers, cameras, etc.
Can I go back to the first line item, the instructional technologist? Is that a person in technology, or is that someone in instruction who's helping us use technology in instruction, or is that a...
It's the same positions, but they're under technology now instead of under instruction. We're kind of integrated together. And this would be an additional person. They would go out to the schools And, they'll work with the schools. But right now there are 4 positions. This is just adding another position.
It was a position that was requested by a few schools as well. Well, more than a few schools, a significant number of schools. This is a step towards being able to serve those schools appropriately. But it's still a request that they've been making.
When will we be third grade through high school 1-to-1 next year? Or
Yeah. We're finishing the 3 through 8. We're able to buy those devices. We're going to buy those this fiscal year. Have some money from the state for that. The high school devices, we have those built into our budget to buy those. We're probably going to work with the high schools the first part of the year and then deploy devices in January after second semester.
and so all third and high school will have do 1-to-1, but we're only going to have, assuming this technology coach or instructional technology system, we're only going to have 5 district-wide. That's a problem. We have that many computers out there, but not enough people to support our teachers.
It is. They've really done a good job this year. They've been out in the schools all the time. We've met with principals and they've been real happy, but that's their question, or their suggestion is for this being we could take more. I mean,
Definitely.
you don't have to stay with that one.
She'll take 3 of all.
If I could speak to those positions real quick, because they were in instruction and accountability last year, but they've moved over. One of the challenges with technology is that it's changing so fast. Y'all know 3 years, if you have an iPhone that's 3 years old, it's almost obsolete. And we bounced from iPads to Chromebooks to, I don't know what the newest fad is now, but the ITs really have been instrumental in helping us keep up. Not just with helping implement technology for instructional use, but helping us stay abreast of what's the best technology to put into the hands of kids. And you'll hear later on at the regular board meeting about us implementing a couple of computer science courses at the middle school to help our kids be ready for new requirements at the high school level. Some standards are changing specific to technology in the schools, and these folks really help us make that, address that gap.
Okay, all right, so moving to the safety and security officer request. We've added, square footage, to our district, so to speak. So we only have one person that's managing all of the safety and security for our school district. One person that's covering, about 1,200 miles. And so this is definitely a need as we move forward with safety. And on top of that, we would like to be able to get a vehicle and also add fuel to this department's budget for next year. Transportation is asking for 2 additional bus drivers and 2 bus assistants. There again, it's another department that continues to grow as we add more bus routes with the schools opening and then on the Berkeley Middle College line item, this program continues to grow, and this line item will help pay for Trident Tech tuition, supplies, as well as technology. Then on the next line item from Instruction Accountability, we're asking for $80,000 in STEAM consultants. Our STEAM initiative, I believe you are already aware of this, but we just want to go ahead and put this line item in the budget for these consultants as well as the summer professional development. And we've listed those schools that they would go directly to. Any questions with this before I move forward?
The STEAM consultants, where would they come from? Would they be in-house or would we
Those are not in-house.
We had, when we talked about Philip Simmons being STEAM schools years ago, we started touring different schools in the state to find a good STEAM model. We found it in Greenville. They were consultants from Clemson. I know you're happy about that, Mr. Perry.
Yes.
He's a Gamecock guy. But so Clemson currently has the only endorsing teacher program in the country for STEAM. And they opened Fisher Middle School in Greenville, and we were just kind of blown away by what they've done. So if there are consultants from Clemson that come down and work directly with teachers on the implementation.
So that's a one-time consulting fee. That's not an ongoing person that we're going to hire as a consultant.
Right. And it was a 3-year plan to address Phillips Simmons, Daniel Island, and King Point, because they all feed into Phillips Simmons High. We agreed to meet all their needs.
Is there any reason why DIS gets it over the summer? Why is there a special line item for the summer at Daniel Island as opposed to Phillips Simmons?
We did the other schools last summer,
Okay, so
and
this is
Daniel Island's
Daniel
coming on
Island.
this summer.
Okay.
That's a multi.
Yeah, we've tried to stagger it out.
Any other questions before we go forward? Okay. So then, this is our final slide on district level requests. These are the district level requests that are not tied into initiatives nor mandates. So communications is asking for a digital communications specialist. HR is asking for 2 professional development mentors. Maintenance, that's another department that as we've grown in square footage, they've been left behind and have not been able to ask for additional personnel. And then transportation would like to purchase a brand new activity bus and replace one of their older ones. And they would also like additional funding to update their bus cameras and their video systems. And you notice those items have asterisks as well. So, the budget request, based upon the federal, state, and local mandates, totals $12.8 million. The district level request, I'm having trouble saying that word tonight, is $480,000. And then the line item that has $5.5 million, these are items that are listed in the general fund budget that we could technically not pay for out of general fund, that we could use our 8% new money to pay for. And we'll talk about that in another slide as well. So looking at that, if we could move the $5.5 million out of general fund for these line items, it would free up $5 million in the general fund to do something else that we need to do or could do. And these were the line items that had the asterisks. The new software system, the budget increase on the technology side for equipment and infrastructure, replacement items for equipment, cameras, servers, replacing the activity bus, updating bus cameras and video systems. So as you can see, the majority of this is technology items.
So we use the 8% money to pay for all of that.
Yes, we could. That is an option.
Pretty good.
So after the bonds are issued in a week and a half, we'll have that money back in the equipment bond. Our debt cap will be freer and we can go to the 8% money and use it after that.
That would, correct me if I'm wrong, that would require a board approval, and that would be an issuance in September, as opposed to anytime soon, that would be a September issuance. Those funds would be repaid within 12 months. The money that's borrowed in September would be repaid within 12 months.
Yes.
Probably the March payment or a June.
Mhm, exactly. Yeah.
And the district would have access to those funds for up to 3 years.
And what the interest rate on
I would be speculating about the interest.
You know what? I don't have the interest rate, but my next slide kind of talks about what we could borrow, and there is a $200,000 cushion in there for interest and issuance costs. So I know it's going to be below that $200,000 threshold based upon the very last column where you see borrowing capacity. I know this is a lot of numbers, so let me just walk us through it. The total revenues available, that is the amount of revenues that is paid into our debt service fund from 6% and 4% property, as well as other items. The total debt service column, that equals all of our principal and interest payments that are due during that particular calendar year. So the next column where it talks about cost of debt, let me back up. This was provided to us by First Tryon Advisors today. So, and I literally got it at 3:30. So I had about 20 minutes to go through it and kind of analyze it. These numbers are preliminary. They can change. So as you know, we're still finalizing debt service, mill value with the county treasurer. But we used preliminary numbers based on conversations that I had with Johnette Connolly on Friday. Like I said, these numbers could change. So with that said, the cost of debt mill and the capacity mill, if you added those two numbers together, that would be our mill value for debt service. And so what he tried to do was show you that of the 75 mills, 47.2 is needed in calendar year 2018 to pay principal and interest. We have capacity of 27.8 mills to do anything we want to as far as school district operations, purchasing technology items, maintenance and repairs, equipment purchases like a tractor or a backhoe, something of that nature. So there's a lot of things we can do with that money. So moving to the category or the column where it says borrowing capacity. That is what is available to us at certain times of the year. Not right now, this very minute, but by the end of November, we have the capacity to borrow $22 million of short-term, 8% new money to do other things for our district that won't impact general fund. This money is not, it does not add to our debt. It is a short-term loan, meaning it's available in November and we turn right around and pay it off in March. It's money that we can use that is not being applied towards principal and interest on the debt service side. I know you have some questions. I know y'all do. It's a lot of information, I know.
Now, I'm just thinking if you go this route, I would want to tie it all together with the approval of the budget and the approval to borrow the money, however people advise us to do that, so that I wouldn't want it to be separate, because I wouldn't want to spend that 5.5 and then not issue the bond in September. We're going to do what I think is the total. If you take this option, to me, it's the total package. If you go ahead and spend that 5.5, then you need to also commit to the things that we've asked for that are necessary for the bond issuance. I think you put it together so that we make a commitment for the total of everything.
One budget year.
Yeah, for one budget year, everything that's under consideration, and you don't float Diane or HR or anybody else into September on another vote. I think that is just concerning.
And I also recommend, if the board decides to go this route, that we also create a budget for this 8% debt to show how we're spending it for transparency, so that no one thinks that, it's just money sitting there, that it's there for a reason. Because we do have 3 years to spend it. Let's say we plan a project and it doesn't happen by June 30th. We can roll it forward and we can spend it in the next fiscal year, but we just have to spend it within 3 years.
How confident do we feel about the 3.3 for the software? Software always seems to cost more. Oh, we need another server. Oh, we didn't know you had that. Do we think 3.3 has enough contingency built in to deal with software? Software always seems to have a
Yeah,
catch.
that includes, there's some like third-party pieces of software that we would need for like scanning documents and
Applicant tracking.
the applicant tracking. All of that's built into the pre-con.
The main question I would have about the software is just from my own personal experiences of have we, and I assume we have, but as far as reached out to other school districts that actually utilize that software? Because that's a big part of software, is if you find out people that's utilized it and they say, yeah, it's been really successful, it's great, or they will tell you, no.
We went through an extensive process evaluating the bid process, and Charleston County uses this software. But there was another. We ended up with 2 final products that we looked at, and this one was.
And your feedback was really positive.
Yes, we did reference checks, we did interviews, on-site interviews, over the phone interviews. We really took our time to find the right software package for our district.
Well, that's awesome. That's what you got to do, right? And I've seen where it's not been done. It's so frustrating.
So do you have any more questions on this slide? Again, I apologize. I know it's a lot of information. Okay. All right, so what makes this budget unique? Right now, our current mill rate is 163.8. We recently were contacted by the South Carolina Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Office, and they informed us that we had had massive growth in our county, and also our CPI had increased. And with those two hand in hand, the board has the option to increase the millage rate to add an additional $4.8 million to the general fund. Just wanted to make you aware of that. Another thing, Phillips Simmons High, the opening of a new school always places an unusual burden on school districts. And we need to keep in mind that next year we're opening 2 elementary schools in August 2018. In addition to the step increase, even though we received $3.5 million from state money, about $3.2 million of that is going towards covering the 2% retirement increase. And unfortunately, we're going to continue to see a 1% increase on the employer side up through year 2022. And as far as I know, there are no guarantees in our state funding that they will continue to cover that charge like they did this year. Just something to think about. And we talked about the $350,000 teacher fringe benefit. It was particularly low this year because a cost of living adjustment was not built into the state teacher salary schedule. Even though we received $350,000, our 3.3% health insurance increase was about $905,000. So we're a little upside down on that. And then last but not least, our base student costs. We were all excited to see it increase to $2,435. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the Budget and Control Board's mandate says to educate a child in this state, it costs $2,984. If our state could ever get their budget to that point where we would actually get $2,984 per student, that would be an additional $18.6 million to our general fund budget. No, we've always been down. Matter of fact, we're still below the 2007, 2008 base student cost projection, or actual. So. I just want to show you the option to increase the millage if you were interested in knowing how this works. Like I said earlier, the Office of Revenue and Fiscal Affairs gave us the Consumer Price Index and the population growth. So we have the opportunity to increase our millage rate by 5.27%. And how that works is you take your current millage rate, multiply it times the 5.27, and then add that. So then you have a millage rate increase option of 172.4. And an increase of this, would add an additional $4.8 million to the general fund if the board chose to do that. Just want to make you aware of that. Any questions on this slide? Okay. And then our strategic process. As you know, we Advanced Ed had come to our district back in November, and they had left us with some improvement priorities. And we just wanted to show that inside each one of these priorities, we systematically and strategically tried to tie it back to our budget, whether it was looking at continuous improvement processes over long-range planning, still creating resource management with our people, our time, our facilities, implementing strategies to integrate, monitor, and evaluate the systemic use of technology. That's a big item in our budget this year, as well as developing, implementing, and evaluating a formal process for engaging all stakeholders. We did that with our budget development process.
Jackie, just to clarify, Advanced Ed came in 2015. We have to submit to Advanced Ed by December, this coming December, that we've done these improvement priorities. So we have to prove that we've done this by this December.
Any questions on this slide? And this is just an update of our budget calendar. We are getting towards the end. The next few steps, tonight, we're having our board workshop, and we will solicit board member priorities. As you know, Wednesday is the last day of session. I don't foresee any changes, but if there are on base student costs or anything like that that will impact our funding, I will let you know as soon as possible. And then we've got our proposed community meetings. On May 23rd, the superintendent will recommend the budget to the board. We'll have our first reading on June 13th, and hopefully our public hearing and our board approval on June 27th. And now let's open up for discussion.
This agenda item is also in the superintendent's report in case we ran out of time. But I prefer to go ahead and use the 30 minutes now and go through everybody's budget priorities. And we can start with District 1. If you just want to state your priorities or thoughts on the budget, we'll just go round table by district and hopefully go home before 11 o'clock tonight.
I'm very comfortable with the amount of information that's been presented, to me tonight, and we can see that even with the mandates and whatever we need to do, it really makes sense from technology and from curriculum, et cetera. And we do know that we can't get away from the requirement it would cost to open up some schools, et cetera. But I'm very pleased with all the information, the way it's been presented to where I feel confident that I was able to interpret it the way it's presented to me.
So if we decide to take the 5, and we'll call it 5.5, but we actually had a deficit of about 500,000, so I'll call it 5. So if we use the around $5 million out of capital, out of bonds, that frees some money from the general fund. So if we go that route, what would your preference be on what would you prioritize that extra money to be spent on special programs or technology coaches or pay increases. So that's, Dion's just looking for that feedback.
As far as I'm concerned, I think that we need to do, because we're playing catch up still, as far as I'm concerned. And we got behind because of several years. I'm saying we're playing catch up, and I think if the money is there, that we need to do all the things to help the district move forward. I don't think that we need to put ourselves in a position where we're afraid to make the tough decision that's going to be positive going forward for many years. So for me, I support everything that I saw tonight, because I think it's very important to do just that.
You want the millage increase and the capital, so that would...
If it's necessary, I'd say yes. That's my idea.
When it got to me, I was going to ask, I'm a simple man, okay? If we approve ultimately the request of this budget, is it paid for by the existing projected budget without any additional millage increase? Or does it require a millage increase?
All right, so
to go forward?
what you saw tonight, what you just saw in Jackie's presentation, we can accomplish if we take the advantage of the 8% money. If we use that capacity, we can accomplish everything you saw today without an increase in millage for this school year. I think what Ms. Walter was saying, that if we take advantage of the 8% money, that would leave a bit of a surplus, if you want to call it that, of around, what is it, Jackie, 4.4? So based on that projected surplus, $5 million. So based on that projected surplus, what would be the board's priorities, given that projected surplus of $5 million, if we take advantage of the 8% money that we have available?
We can roll that over for 3 years, you said? The extra money?
The 8%.
The 8% money.
So the 4.45 million we're talking about, we could roll.
It's coming out. That $5 million would be freed up by the use of the 8% money, so it would be freed up out of the general fund. So we're free up general fund money. Is what we would be doing.
And that's the money we could roll over. No.
It's 8% money.
Well, it's general fund money, it's there. So you have, I think you have 3 options. One is you approve the budget where it is, or you make about $500,000 worth of cuts, you don't use the capital money, you don't take a millage increase. You can take the capital money and you have an additional $5 million of general fund to prioritize. Or you could take the capital money and do a millage increase and you've got $9.8 million to prioritize. So it's the so we need to know what your preference is for those options. And if your option has a surplus, what would you put your surplus dollars towards?
My preference would be, at this moment, would be to utilize 8% money. I mean, if I do more investigation and I find that that's not being prudent, then I will obviously let this board know. I would not be in favor of a millage increase because I've seen a lot of millage increases for a lot of years, and that's just not a route that I want to go down at this time. We've had a real simple issue, a tremendous amount of problems with school buses in Hanahan, where we're only 77% capacity apparently of what we need with school buses. We're just from a simple, easy way of looking at things, I would really like to see some improvement made with the school buses and how we go about getting enough bus drivers and getting enough routes where it's not a daily and a weekly problem. I know the district has already tried, before I even came here, they allocated a good bit of additional money to try to improve that, but that's just a real simple thing. With me, I look at more special programs, the arts, and my choice, and some different things I would like, but it would need to be, of course, the right programs, but as far as how we can make the biggest impact on our kids is kind of where I stand.
Option 2, first priority technology coaches. Second priority support personnel. Third priority demands on growth.
Hold on. Option 2.
So let me just read you my numbers down.
8%, so you're wanting to use the 8% money with no millage increase.
Yes.
And your first priority is
Technology coaches.
technology coaches.
Second priority support personnel. Third priority is demands on growth. Fourth priority special programs. Fifth priority is restoration.
Ms. Kelly?
I would go with the second option. In our district, I would feel like, well, not definitely,
Not a millage increase, but using the 8% fund.
and then, let's say some Berkeley, which is our area. Special programs.
You don't have to rank everything. I was gonna say, you don't have to rank everything.
Okay.
You could rank what you want to put on the list.
Competitive compensation would be one for me to support our existing teachers and the pay, keeping them accountable.
District 4, Ms. Lee.
Mine. Okay, so my number one is art programs, so that would be under special programs. Number two for me is restoration of items that we reduced in the previous years, supplies for teachers. I know that we're working on supplies for schools to make that equitable, but like what Ms. Kelly was just saying, paying personnel, making sure that we are fully staffed from all the cuts that we have to do. And my fourth would be technology coaches. Oh, I'm sorry, and I didn't even say the first part.
Preference of millage increase.
I'm going along with the crowd on this 8% money and no increase.
District 5, Mr. Baker.
Couple of questions for the administrative supervisors. What is the current pupil-teacher ratio in elementary, middle, and high?
Ratio 25-1.
And what?
And those would be middle of time. That's what we should be doing.
25-1?
Yes, sir.
Is that including resource students or excluding them?
Excellent. And the middle school.
Are the principals happy with their current allocations?
They always want more.
Well, I've actually spoken to some and they were very satisfied.
Some were happy, they always want more.
Okay, well, that's,
Okay, Mr. Bauer, in kindergarten, it's 24 students to learn this teacher and teacher assistant. First grade is 18, and then 2 through 5 is 25.
and middle and high is 25-1. Okay. Is that exception for rural schools?
Exception for rural schools, and usually we have to adjust this 15 to 1.
Because of the student enrollment and the program accessibility? Okay. I would like to fully fund the budget as presented using the 8% money with no millage increase if that's possible. And I have a question to ask about the $5 million in excess. If it was not utilized, if it was put in a surplus fund, would that help the bond rating down the line? If you increase the amount of money in that, would that from the
We
fund
cannot
balance?
use this, we cannot transfer this money into fund balance. It
We
has
can't
to
do
stay,
that.
it has to stay in a separate capital project fund. We can't commingle it.
But what we would be freeing up though, out of the general fund, the money that we freed up out of the general fund.
Yes, that would stay in the fund balance if we didn't use
That could be
it.
in the fund balance.
Right. And the There's two parts to your question. One, yes, if you increase your fund balance, generally it does help with your bond rating. However, if there's not a plan for continuous growth of your fund balance, then it's a one-shot deal, and they look at a trend over time. So if you're looking at the trend over time and you have a one shot in the arm, or shot in the arm as far as your fund balance is concerned, it helps, but it really doesn't help because they don't see that trend of growth in your fund balance.
So, once we get our fund balance money right back in the right pot on this, these bonds are issued, we will far exceed what our requirement is for policy, and also we maintain a very high quality credit rating even with our current misfortune. So I don't know, they didn't seem to think that.
It doesn't hurt, but I don't know that, it will improve us from a AA2.
So if the money's there, it would be wise to expend it on things that you felt like you need.
Some of it. I think Jackie may have mentioned it.
What's the recommendation?
Jackie may have mentioned it during the presentation. Keep in mind we have 2 schools to open next year. This year with Phillipson's High, and it is a high school, and we did estimate $2.4 million for the opening of that school. We're opening up 2 elementary schools, and previously, yes, it was around $1.5 million that we set aside for an elementary school. So we're looking at least $3 million for the opening of schools next year. That's on the horizon. Next year, the 2018-19 school. So we have to keep that in mind. I would hesitate to look at it as a $5 million that we have on hand to expend all this year. It would be prudent to set some aside for the following school year.
I had a couple of things that I've spoken to some folks, and they increased instructional supplies. I guess that's already included, so that's a positive. I don't know that they were made aware of that, so they'll be happy about that.
Say you did.
Some.
That's right.
I'll take that. No. And then maybe some, not administrative, but some clerical, middle school allocations have traditionally been very weak in terms of folks, the clerical assistants. I'd like to see a possibility of increasing at least a 0.5 to a 1.0. Most middle schools don't even have a guidance secretary. I don't know if you're aware of that. Maybe even elementary.
Elementary has even.
So I'd like to see take a look at maybe elementary and middle school clerical assistants. See if we can bump them up at least 0.5. And then some of the high school folks are saying, with the amount of testing that's going on in the schools, they are in dire need of a testing coordinator. And I know that entails a lot of money, but I don't know if the board members are aware, but counselors used to run testing programs in schools, and was it 7 or 8 years ago? It was taken out of the equation. They don't have anything to do with testing. The organizational, the administration, the handling of the documentation, nothing. So the administration at these high schools that I've spoken to are, and they're in unison here. They say they need some help with the testing coordinator. That's all I have.
My preference would be to use the 8% debt cap. I'm not in favor of the millage increase. My number one priority, can I have 2 number ones? I want 2 number ones. My number one priority would be competitive compensation, and my number 2 would be special programs. And on here it says technology coaches, but my number 3 would be technology, whether that's support staff, coaches. We're spending lots of money to buy stuff and build a network. I just want to bridge the gap between all the things we're spending money on and making sure it's effective. So I guess those are coaches and also help desk support. But my number 1 is competitive compensation, and then the choice arts rural schools. District 7, Reverend Stacy.
Good afternoon. Good evening. I apologize for coming late, but because of that, let me ask you some questions because the 8% and the increased millage is kind of mixed up with me, kind of confusing. I really don't understand exactly what you were talking about with the 8% increase and the millage, and I know you have it on your slide and you explain where it comes from and that kind of thing.
Jackie, you want to take it
But
back?
tell me, what is the pro and con with the 8% and the increased millage? What will be the results of using one another?
Myself or Mr. Jackson or both?
Well,
All right, so
Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
just in short, with the increased millage, it will require a board vote. When it requires a board vote, it's going to change in effect what our citizens pay. The debt service side, or the 8% side, we have a self-imposed cap of 75 mils. And from what I've seen over the past 4 or 5 years, we had to come close to 75 mils. We've been at about 64.2-ish, somewhere around there. So, we have that capacity there that's built in already.
So you say it might be some extra revenue?
Well, that's exactly what that slide shows. Jackie, you want to talk about that slide?
Yes. So let's look at the year 2018. Total revenue is expected to exceed
And listen, I really apologize. You have to go
No,
back.
you're fine. No, it's okay. I think the more we hear about it, the more everybody understands it, so it's not a problem.
Check it out.
So on your total revenues, that's the money that we're going to receive on the debt service side for taxes. That's 4% and 6% property. That's vehicles, manufacturing. There's a long list of different things that make up that number. The next column where it says total DS, that's total debt service that the county treasurer is going to pay on our behalf for long-term loans, long-term obligations, and that includes principal and interest payments. So the next column talks about the cost of debt. What First Try on our financial advisors has done is broken that out so that you can see of the 75 mils. For 2018, we're only using 47.2 to fund long-term debt obligations. So the second column, capacity, the 27.8, that's what he's showing us that is available for us to use. In addition, which we call 8% new money or 8% debt. That's money that is not tied to anything. I don't want to call it surplus, but it's not tied to anything. But we would have to explain to someone what we wanted to use it for because it's taxpayer money. So the next column where it talks about debt service capacity, that's your total revenues minus your total debt service. That's the first column minus the second column. The last column, the borrowing capacity, has a little bit of expenses built into it. First of all, we want to keep a $500,000 balance in the debt service fund regardless. And it also includes about $200,000 in expenditures, which is an estimate to cover any interest that we might owe on this, as well as issuance costs. Because we'd have to issue, we'd have to do a bond issue. Yes, we'd have to do a bond issuance in order to get that money.
When you said that, you moved into another question.
Okay.
So the 8% that you referred to, is that money used in the district? You may have some extra money to do some other things?
Yes, that's what we're talking about. That money is available where we can do things like we can purchase technology items, software. We can do maintenance and repairs on our buildings.
We can do facility assessments.
Can you increase salaries?
Not out of this 8% money.
Out of this 8%?
So you can spend this money on the things that qualify, like software and maintenance and things like that, which frees up your other money to increase pay or have a different expenditure.
Because my concern is about the bus drivers. Whether or not I don't know what we have done as far as the budget for them this year, but I would like to see an increase in the bus driver salary and our bus supervisors.
Right. Right now, as it stands, our budget does not include cost of living adjustment. It just includes a step increase. And that step increase, it amounts to maybe 1.5% increase over over their current pay. So if I'm hearing you right.
So you said there's no way that
No,
could
sir.
happen?
No, I'm not saying that. No, sir. We could do that, or if the board elects, we could
One
move in
thing-
that direction.
Reverend Span is, I think, some of the evaluation that we're getting from our consultant is going to be giving us different information here coming pretty soon. And even some of the concerns that we have, even when we spoke with the consultant team. And what I'm hearing is myself, Ms. Kelly, I'm hearing several people that are addressing this bus concern. So we can't do it as far as raising money over district-wide, but one of my concerns is we got to figure out a plan how to incentivize to get people to want to be bus drivers, because it's been a recurring problem. So we can't go district-wide and give everyone money, but we can address the bus problem as far as maybe how we pay our bus drivers more money, or how we figure out to entice more people to want to be bus drivers.
Well, they handling our children, and I'm concerned about the morale, because if their morale is not up at a certain level, that might transpire into the action. And they're doing the job that I think is most important, carrying the precious cargo of our children. So I really would like, that would be one of my top priorities. Okay. The second thing would be support of teachers incentive in the rural area. We have a terrible problem of getting qualified teachers that will travel to the rural area. And that was a problem over the years. And everyone is complaining. Ross hadn't had, I think, we missing a teacher almost for a whole year. I really don't know if that's settled yet. All the teachers out there in Cross.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're still working. We did hire a math teacher.
You did?
We hired a math teacher, but she had another vacancy, so we're working on recruitment right now. Yeah, we did.
But in most of the year, we did not have a math teacher out there. We were missing a teacher, one or two. And we here at the district expect for the schools to be up, and they don't even have a teacher.
But how we address that class, we did, when students were not without instruction, because what we did is
You overload some of the other classes.
teachers were able to teach additional courses, so they receive adequate instruction.
Which still is a problem. They either overwork by getting another course, or there's more children in the classroom that should be in. So when we don't address those kind of things, and we look at the school, and we look at the reports, and we said the school is failing, it's actually us. We feel it by not sending out qualified people or personnel in that area to teach. So how do we expect the school to do better if we don't send them teachers? So that's my second concern, is to increase the incentive for teachers to go out in that area, in the rural area, Timberland, Cross, Sensitive, and all those areas. Because it is a hardship. If you travel from Goose Creek to Timberland, that's what, 35, 40 miles? 36. Thank you, sir. 36. Thank you, Dave. You did it for so many years. You know exactly what it is. You and Mr. Jackson, both of you are out there. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then you're traveling through swamps and, dead, desert areas and all kinds of stuff. So you really put your life, really putting your life on the line here. So that's my second concern, is to have incentive increase. And I know we do give some kind of incentive now, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's increase that though, to attract better teachers for those areas. That's my second concern. Because our job is to make sure the children get, the very best education that they could possibly have. And it shouldn't matter whether it's the rule or whether it's downtown Hanahan. All of our schools should be top-notch schools. A county with the growth and financial support the size of Berkeley County should be able to accommodate each and every child in the district. So that's my concern. And the third thing would be the technology. Let's do as much as we can for technology to increase, because believe it or not, it's here to stay. So that's not going to be. Thank you.
Do you have anything to speak? I know you kind of talked first. Do you want to circle back around?
I'm good. I support all everything.
Ms. Condon?
Yeah, I've been sitting here and I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and I'm seeing a lot of money going for administrative assistants. And, I'm a little concerned about that because I agree with Kelly, Reverend Stan, that I think we need to put our money where it has some really strong value, and that's in the teaching programs or in our teachers. And I agree too that it's imperative that we pay our bus drivers. And we have that. I think there was a concern about not having enough bus drivers a few months ago. I think we really need to make note of that. We need to make things maybe a little bit more attractive for those guys. A bus driver approached me in my neighborhood not too terribly long ago about her concerns about having Head Start children being placed on her bus, and she didn't have a monitor. I'm talking about 3-year-olds. And she doesn't have a monitor? Okay? That concerned me. And it concerned her because of the safety of the child. So, those are things we really do need to consider before we even think about some of these line items on this budget. I'm all for technology. I think the money needs to go to technology. That would be one of the top priorities I would have. And let's face it, folks, our county's growing, and we're going to get more revenues in. So the concerns about meeting the demands on growth, we're going to be able to meet them. I really feel strongly that we can. So that kind of takes a back seat with me. And we only have what we can spend. And I don't believe that we need to raise the millage rate. I think if we use a pretty common sense type of approach to our budget, I think we'll be okay. And I think our children will benefit from it. Safety is certainly an issue for me. And paying our teachers what they need and what they deserve, and attracting good teachers. It's all about the classroom, folks. That's how I feel. And as far as hiring more clerical support, I don't know that we really do need to do that, Mr. Barrow, and I'll tell you why. Because we have fantastic parents that come in and volunteer and do a lot of that work. And I'm all for parents being more involved, getting into the schools, helping to run the schools. To me, incentivizing parents to do that would be a major thing that I would promote. So that's where I stand. No millage rate, 8%. And let's put the money where it should go.
Can I amend my number 2 So I want to keep technology coaches at number one, but I want to do my number two as an other. That would be for competitive teacher pay, but also agreeing with reference band. I'd like to see some, it's not my district. I think every kid deserves a good education, but I'd like to see more rural teacher initiatives in addition to competitive teacher pay, my number two priorities. I think I'm kind of working that in with instructional coaches and stuff under support personnel, but let's put it in other, under competitive teacher pay, specifically including rural teacher initiatives.
Well, we started about 5 or 6 minutes late, so we're ending about 6 minutes late, so we're right on time. So this budget priorities is also listed later tonight in the superintendent's report, so we will, it will come back again if you change your mind or have a new thought. Otherwise, we'll quickly move through that item when we get into the regular session. So if you have any other discussion, we'll entertain it in the superintendent's report, and y'all entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. There's a motion by Mr. McClellan and a second by Ms. Hondo. All in favor of adjourning this budget workshop, please respond by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay.